would you deal with a customer who was unhappy with their purchase?
If a customer is unhappy with their purchase, the first thing I would do is try to understand why they are unhappy. Is it because the product is defective? Or did they simply change their mind? Once I understand the reason for their dissatisfaction, I can try to offer a solution. If the product is defective, I can offer to refund or exchange it. If they simply changed their mind, I can offer a store credit. In either case, I would apologize for the inconvenience and do my best to make the situation right.
What would you do if you had a customer who was short on cash and needed change for a large bill?
If a customer is short on cash and needs change for a large bill, the best course of action would be to ask the customer if they would like to use a credit or debit card instead. If the customer does not have a credit or debit card, the next best option would be to ask the customer if they have any smaller bills that can be used instead. If the customer does not have any smaller bills, the next best option would be to ask the customer if they would like to use a check.
What would you do if a customer became angry or verbally abusive?
If a customer became angry or verbally abusive, I would try to calm them down and diffuse the situation. I would ask them what was wrong and see if there was anything I could do to help. If they continued to be abusive, I would ask them to leave the premises.
What is your experience with handling money and making change?
I have experience handling money as a cashier and making changes for customers. I am able to handle large sums of money and make changes quickly and accurately. I also have experience using a cash register and credit card machine.
Tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer.
I had to deal with a difficult customer once when I was working as a cashier at a grocery store. The customer was angry and demanding, and she refused to listen to reason. I remained calm and polite, and eventually diffused the situation by offering her a discount on her purchase.
How do you handle it when multiple customers are waiting in line and one is taking a long time?
If I have multiple customers waiting in line and one is taking a long time, I would first ask the customer if they are okay and if they need any assistance. If they are taking a long time and it is holding up the line, I would politely ask them to move to the side so that other customers can be helped.
What is your experience with using a cash register or point of sale system?
I have experience with using a cash register and point of sale system. I am familiar with how to operate the register and how to process transactions. I am also familiar with how to troubleshoot problems that may arise during a transaction.
Tell me about a time when you had to handle a large amount of cash.
I was working as a cashier at a busy grocery store when we had a power outage. The backup generators kicked in, but the registers were down. We were only able to take cash payments. I had to open the register drawer and start counting out people's change by hand. It was a lot of money, and it took a while, but I got through it.
What do you do if you make a mistake while ringing up a purchase?
If you make a mistake while ringing up a purchase, the first thing you should do is apologize to the customer. Next, you will need to void the incorrect transaction and start over. Be sure to double-check your work before finalizing the purchase.
Tell me about a time when you had to deal with a customer who was returning an item.
I had a customer who was returning an item that she had purchased from our store. She was not happy with the quality of the product and wanted to return it for a refund. I explained the return policy to her and helped her process the return. I also offered to help her find a similar product that she would be happier with.
What is your experience with using a credit card machine or processing credit card transactions?
I have experience with using a credit card machine and processing credit card transactions. I am familiar with the different types of credit cards, how to process them, and the various fees associated with each type of card. I am also familiar with the different types of fraud that can occur with credit card transactions, and I have procedures in place to prevent and resolve any fraudulent activity.
What do you do if a customer's credit card is declined?
If a customer's credit card is declined, the first thing you should do is try to process the transaction again. If the second attempt is also declined, you should ask the customer if they have another form of payment. If the customer does not have another form of payment, you may offer to process the transaction as a debit transaction. If the customer still cannot pay, you will need to cancel the transaction and void any items that were purchased.
Tell me about a time when you had to give someone change for a large bill.
I was working as a cashier at a grocery store when a customer came up to my register with a large bill. I had to give them change for the bill, and I did so by counting out the correct amount of bills and coins. The customer was happy with the change I gave them, and they went on their way.
What would you do if there was no one else around and you needed help with something?
If I needed help with something and there was no one else around, I would try to find a solution myself. If I couldn't find a solution, I would reach out to someone via phone or online.
Tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult situation.
I was working as a cashier at a busy grocery store when one of our registers went down. We were already short-staffed, so I had to take on the extra workload. I kept calm and did my best to keep the line moving, but it was a challenge. After a few minutes, our manager came over and helped me out. Together, we were able to get the register up and running again and keep things moving smoothly.
How do you handle it when you are busy and there is a line of customers waiting?
When I am working as a cashier and become busy with customers, I handle it by staying calm and efficient. I try to move the line along as quickly as possible without skipping any steps. I also apologize to customers for the wait and let them know that I am doing my best.
What do you do if you need to take a break and there are still customers waiting in line?
If I need to take a break and there are still customers waiting in line, I would ask one of the other cashiers to cover for me while I step away. I would then let the customers know that someone else will be helping them momentarily.
What is your experience with handling returns or exchanges?
I have worked as a cashier for over 3 years now and have had plenty of experience handling returns and exchanges. I am always polite and professional with the customer, and do my best to resolve the issue as quickly and efficiently as possible. I have had to deal with a wide variety of return, exchange situations, so I am confident that I can handle anything that comes my way.
Tell me about a time when you had to go above and beyond for a customer.
I once had a customer who came into my line at the grocery store I was working at, and she had a lot of items. She also had a lot of coupons, which she was very organized with. I could tell she was getting frustrated with the process because it was taking a while. So, I offered to help her count out her coupons and bag her groceries. She was really grateful and it ended up being a nice conversation.